This podcast is not a substitute for therapy. Please seek professional help if you need. The views expressed on this podcast are guests' opinions and not necessarily of the creators of the 145 booth. This podcast may be emotionally triggering. Audience discretion is advised. Please consider sponsoring our podcast using the details provided.
Hello guys, and welcome to the first episode of the 145 booth. I am your host Lydia Ndwiga, and I am a voice coach at Tamiri Mira and a creative who's very passionate about mental health, and this is what the 145 booth is about. I am not here alone. I have my co-host with me today. Welcome, our writer of the 145 booth.
Thank you. I am Kawira Koome. I identify as a writer. I write fiction, creative non-fiction, a bit of poetry. And this is my first time ever on a podcast, so pardon me if I'm too nervous, but we shall get through it. And it's a privilege, actually, to be able to speak about mental health for creatives, because I think we have a special brand of challenges, regardless of what our path is. Whether you're a musician, writer, painter, we all have some unique challenges. So hopefully this is what the podcast is going to address.
All right. And then for me, being a musician, most of the time we think that creatives are just the people who are creatives because of what we do. For me, the description of a creative is a musician. But I've heard you talk about writing, I've heard you talk about films. So if we were to describe what the 145 booth is about, and we're saying it's a mental health podcast for creatives, what comes to your mind when you talk about a creative?
I guess the basic definition is a creative is someone who creates. So whether that is art, music, writing, storytelling, in whichever form, that to me is a creative. And it's a drive that we have that if we don't do this, we feel like we don't have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
So it's so tied to who we are, and it dictates how we live our lives. So that's what I think a creative is.
And I would definitely say that being able to give a part of yourself to the crowd comes with its own self-esteem issues, first of all. It comes with its own questions. It comes with its own doubts as well, because you're literally giving a part of yourself that you're not too sure whether it'll be appreciated or not. I don't know if all of us struggle with that, but they usually say that most creatives are melancholics. Right? We try to be as perfect with our art as much as we can, and we try to give away the best part of ourselves. And I was just talking to someone the other day, and they were saying how we probably are basically giving a healing and we're not receiving it back, because a lot of people who are not creatives are actually using our work to heal. And then the other time we were just thinking about how a lot of actors are going through so much. And we saw Robin Williams, a very happy guy, always in the comedy section, but he committed suicide, and we don't know exactly what happened. So why do you think, and I know these are answers you're going to get as we go by with what the podcast is about, why do you feel like in this day and age, creatives are probably going through a lot of mental health issues?
I think at the core of creating any kind of art is to want to communicate and also to want to be understood. And we're just trying to find our voices and find people who will listen. And that is tied critically to our identity. And if, again, you put yourself out there and you bomb, quote unquote, or you get the criticism that you did not expect, then that shakes you to your core. That also now presents different coping mechanisms, I would say. So, for example, I put out a short story, and I know this is the one that's going to get me the Pulitzer Prize or whichever award. And then I get rejection after rejection after rejection, because this is how publishing works. So it comes back down to me. What am I even doing? Is this even the right thing? How could I improve? Can I even improve? Should I even quit altogether? And then now it blows up into everything else. So even introducing myself as a writer, that has been difficult. So now call yourself a msanii. Imagine the questions you get.
Yeah.
And you are just, especially when you're just beginning, if you say you are a singer, where is your YouTube? Where can we listen?
Man.
If you're a writer, have you written a book? Where can we read? It's like, these things take time. But now audiences, whoever they are, family, friends, complete strangers on the internet, they already have expectations. So to even identify yourself as a creative of any kind automatically brings a lot of pressure and a lot of things that will show up that we need to cope with. Some of us, we struggle with anxiety, as you might be able to tell. It might not be obvious, but I am.
Yeah.
Yes. Some of us struggle with depression. We go into substance abuse. We become reckless. And it all just comes back to wanting to communicate and wanting to be understood. And once we lack that, then there's a disconnect. Then you want to be understood, so you take on a persona, which means that's a separate individual from who you really are, which brings other complications. So multiply that by all possible fields of creativity, and we are a very unique community in that sense. Because yes, other people you can have other careers, even your day job, for example, if you're like doing IT to pay the bills and on the side you're a DJ. When you're doing your IT, you're not on a stage. You're doing what you need to do to get the bills paid. When you're on the stage, that's a whole other persona, a whole other avenue. How do you reconcile that?
Alter egos.
Are those healthy? Are they not? Are there better ways to do our mental health? Big questions.
And so basically at the end of the day, you have to take on two characters. And you see, even for me, when I'm doing voice coaching, I usually tell my students, you're coming from a very hype day, and then probably in the evening you have a concert where you have to be very sad, like you have to bring out the emotion. So how do you balance that? Or maybe you've had a really, really sad day. This is usually the hardest. And maybe you've had such a hard time and you've gotten phone calls that are telling you something has happened, and then you go in the evening and you have a concert and you have to bring it. Like you cannot even show the audience that something wrong has happened, and you cannot even be vulnerable. So at the end of the day, you go back home. Yes, you brought down a show, but on this other end, you're dealing with issues that no one really was there to handle them, or you're not even aware. So what do? I put on music and I dance my night away, and I'm okay. And deep down, I know for sure I haven't dealt with what I'm going through. Yeah. So maybe the one thing I'd probably also ask again, do you think creatives have a proper avenue to get their stress out? And for us, you see, for someone who works in the office, I mean, there are many colleagues in there. You guys can go out and probably talk about your boss and talk everything that you want to say. But for musicians, they're the people they're coming to when they are ranting about their bosses. So as guys are playing music up there, yet we've had a really crazy day. So do you think creatives have an avenue? And I'm now thinking about a creative as a musician, but also I'd like to do the same, because I don't know if most showcases of films and writing and all that are usually at night, but for us, I know for musicians, our gigs are usually to entertain guys after work. So do you think creatives have an avenue good enough for mental health and the mental health space?
That's a tricky one, because some might argue that our quote-unquote issues are the source of our creativity. So say you've had that really difficult experience, I will write about it, and that will feel like it has been out there. But then for other creatives, for example, the ones in entertainment, like performers, let's just say that, I wouldn't know. Maybe after the show, the context. More drinking, more smoking.
Yeah. But we usually say the gives us more ideas in studio, and when the puff 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 and it's in the studio, we have more. Do you think it's a reaction, or do you think it's actually something that usually helps, or is it a result of? Do you think it's true when you puff 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 and all that? Because that's basically what there is. Like, I have been with people who are very creative and they're such geniuses, but they usually tell me they cannot write a good song and they cannot be in good harmony in the studio if they haven't puff puff passed. So do you think it's part of a mental struggle, or is it a belief, or does the belief now lead to the mental issue? Because I know there are two ways that drugs can lead into a mental issue, or the mental issue could lead into drugs.
Isn't that a chicken and egg situation?
Yeah.
Which comes first? It's a lot of different factors, because you may not have the intention to go into drugs.
Yeah.
Or to hang out in certain crowds, but your craft leads you there. Like, and that's, now it goes back to that urge to communicate. It will come out in some way.
In some way.
So if you are a fine artist and you go meet a bunch of fine artists and in common they all smoke,
Puff puff pass.
what are you going to do? And you want to identify with these people.
Yeah.
You want to have the connections they have to, like, exhibitions and things. Sometimes you just have to bend and fit in, because now if you decide to put your foot down and say no, then you start doing the calculations. Are you going to miss out on gigs? Are you going to be looked at a certain way? Are you going to be...
You don't fit, so you cannot come.
At the same time, maybe that urge to create is so overwhelming that you need something to calm you down and maybe help you focus. And then the next thing, the most ideal thing is smoke something. So it's complicated.
And maybe that's where now we need to start discussing what mental health is, because at the end of the day, you might want to ask yourself, is my need to want to be accepted a part of trauma somewhere? Did it start ever since I was a child that I want to be accepted in certain fields? Does that make sense? Because I think in our states and in our places of work and in our places of performance as well, even as a creative, it looks normal to want to be accepted. It looks normal to want to be like so and so. I want to sing like this person. I want to sound like so and so, because they're making it in the industry. But in itself, is that a mental issue? So maybe we need to also just delve in, and I believe this is what the 145 booth will be about, to just give us an insight for, and even the guests we're going to be bringing in, people are just going to tell us where it started. And because even in the couple of last months, I have been very aware about what's happening to my environment and what's happening with everyone around me. And you come and realize, man, there are a lot of things that I have been doing as a result of the trauma. And maybe from there, we can start talking about what the 145 booth is about. Yeah, do you want to tell us a little bit, our writer? Because, man, let me just say how good you are at these things, because my audience, if you ever see captions, very well done. If you see scripts, well written, and introductions, well done, please give it up for our writer, because she's really good at what she does. Really, really good at what she does. And we really appreciate you, Betty. We really do. This has been possible because of what you're doing, like literally on the WhatsApp group. You're writing things so quickly, like we need a what was it, a contract for this and this and that, and Betty has it. Betty has it, like in less, like chill, wait, give us time to read the previous contract, give us draft 1 first, give us 2 days. But no, Betty's like, within the hour I need to give you guys the draft 2. And that was good. That was really good. And now as well, I'm not trying to bring it to water it down, but we also need to ask ourselves, does that come from a good place? Or does it come from a place of where you woke up and your parents are constantly telling you, you have to deliver, you have to do this and that? Is it? But no, we're not going to discuss that now. Okay. But just feel accoladed, if there's a word like that. But you're doing a really good job. Thank you for this. So now, because you're such an amazing writer and you know what the 145 booth is about, I'd like to hear what it is according to you and in your own words.
So
Yeah, and if you feel, you can just tell us the background and where it came from, and just give us maybe even the background of the team and what you just feel the 145 booth means to you as well.
Okay. So first thing is, it was definitely a group effort. We should mention at this point, there's somebody behind the camera called David Sanna. We are in his studio, RRS. It's in
Rhythmic
Raka.
Rendition Studios.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he will claim to be the technical guy, but he is also big on giving back to the community, big on mental health.
And also just sitting down with him, sorry for that.
Yes.
There's, you know, the way for me, I had never really sat down with him to hear what he has for. I usually just used to meet Sanna because of rehearsals and rehearsal spaces. But when I sat down to talk with him about mental health, I was like, okay, this guy has a lot. And it's so much about giving back to the society and to the community and just helping people get whatever they need. And that sold me out for the podcast. Sorry.
Yes. So it is through him that we actually met.
Yeah.
I should also mention Lydia is an epic voice coach. I've learned so much from you.
I'm glad.
So much. So we met as, teacher student, but then things just, and here we are.
Here we are.
The three of us, we met and talked about this idea of doing a podcast about mental health for creatives. And the 145, for me, I am not the musician that you guys are. So I also had to learn what is this 145. So I had to go back to those basics.
The basics.
So, yes. So there are notes that are the do, re, mi's, which hopefully we are all aware of. Then to make a chord, you have to play these certain notes together. And then the 145 is like the basic chord that once you learn that, you can make any music, any genre, anywhere, anytime. So to bring it now to the idea of the podcast, it is us as creatives, not just musicians, but us going right back to the basics of who we are, what we do, why we do it. And it affects even how we present to not just our audiences, but to family, friends, our kids, our, because we are not islands. So in terms of mental health, the intention of this podcast is to really just go back to the basics. And figure out, as you asked, are we the way we are because of trauma? Or what has our journey been? What have our challenges been? What are the things that have helped, things that have not helped? And of course, we have to say this podcast is not a substitute for therapy.
Yeah.
If you need it, we will provide resources. But it's good to offer a safe space, a booth. When you think of a booth, if you're old like us, you'll think of a phone booth.
Yeah.
You just go in, make your call, it's soundproof. Even if there's a queue going all
to
the
the
way,
back,
nobody will hear. So that's one. When you go into a restaurant and you want a private conversation, you get a booth.
You get a booth.
Couch on a corner somewhere.
Yeah.
You have your intimate conversations there.
When you want to record, you go to a booth. It's quiet.
It's soundproof.
Yeah, and you can close your eyes and just record.
Yes. If you are Catholic and you go to confession, you enter a booth.
Yeah.
Where it's just you and the priest and your sins and your forgiveness. And you leave feeling you
let it out.
Yes. Yeah. That burden is done. So that was the same idea, because when you talk about mental health, you need to feel like you will be understood.
And heard.
Yes.
And heard. I think we are living in the age where we talk, but no one really hears you. So literally you're there telling people, this is what I'm going through. But what people catch after that is basically your weakness and what you can do different about it. Like, we are very ready to give advice. Like, no, you see, that's what happened. So I think this is what you should do. But did you really hear what I said? Did you really listen? And it reminds me of these conversations we've been having, and we were having it, the three of us, when we were just going through what the podcast is about, and especially mental health among men. Yeah, like they will give this depth of what's going on in their lives, but all you hear is, so from that, are you going to pay the bills? How does that help you figure out how to lead your family? But you never really get to hear the depth of what they actually told you. We're not saying that the podcast is really much about men only. It's on both, but we are also trying to create. Do I call it the marginalized people who are never really listened to? And especially if you've started off a family, everyone is thinking about, okay, so you've told me that you're struggling with A, B, C, and D. How does that help you become a better husband? How does it help you become a better wife? Does it help you become a better daughter? Yeah, and then mental health is a taboo.
Yes, there's a lot of
Or
stigma,
was.
right?
I think people are now just beginning to, not just beginning really, I don't have the record for that, but we are just getting into the space for needing to talk about what we're going through. And even with our parents, the first question they would ask you, are you paying rent? No.
Yes.
Are you the one who's providing food? No. So you're just cooking for the family, and you're here living free. Stress inatoka wapi? Why are you stressed? So now when you get out here and you're living on your own, there's no parent to tell you what to do. Now you start understanding, there's more to what is happening. So I appreciate that we're in that space of just opening up, and then maybe to just also just tell you what the 145. I mean, if you're a musician and you're watching this, unajua vizuri sana mtu akikwambia music yako ni 145 wamekudis. Hakuna 6, hakuna sijui dominant mahali, hakuna 7th, hakuna, yani they've dissed you, and literally your music is basic. Watakwambia domiso ndio umetuletea hapa, and they live and ask, who's your producer? Aizi kuongezea. They've dissed you a good one. But 145 is basically the basic. Like even when you're teaching music theory, it's the very first thing. Like it's the most basic chord progression that you have in a song. And if you play 145, whatever key you're in, you can sing any song. Whatever song, even though it has the blue notes and those other complicated arrangements, 145 will sort you out. And so I like that we are being able to go back to just understanding the core of things, because that's how you understand the song. Yeah, the first thing before you play the song, you have to first of all understand chord 1, chord 4 na chord 5. Hata ukienda kwa crusade inakwanga chord 1, chord 4, chord 5. Yani you're the whole time ukicheza, and then you maybe do 1 5 4 5 4 1. You just put them together, you have the basic of everything. And I love that we're able to go back to that and just be honest. And the fact that we're creating a safe space. And no safe spaces have been spoken a lot. And right now, that's what there is. I want to create a safe space. But the question is, are we really creating it, or are we actually giving more anxiety to the safe spaces? Because we can come and talk about everything that's happening, but we never really hear what someone is going through. Unacheza muziki and you're stressed. How about an accountant? Us guys are in the office 8 to 5. At least you guys, like I have been told that a couple of times, you guys can be able to do whatever you want to do with your time. You don't have a fixed time. But they don't understand that you have an 8 to 5 job, so you're able to account for your monthly pay. For me, ikikuja, aitumia it, and at the end of the month, I don't even know how much I have spent. So that could also bring something different. Like we all have different, I think our setups are different. And so it's also good to just hear a mental health situation from a creative side of the story. Yeah, as much as, yes, we are not just putting this for the creatives alone. If you're not in the creative space, this is also for you as well, because probably there's something that you can catch from it. But we also need to get to a space where we understand that a safe space is not just where you can talk about yourself and be heard, but it's also a place where I can identify myself as a different person from Betty. Yeah, this is blue. No, this is yellow. No, look, this is blue. No, it's yellow. Okay, fine. Yellow for Betty, blue for Lydia. And that's still okay. Yeah, so I'm glad that we're able to have the mental health conversations, because pole too, you just come and realize there's a lot of things that we are doing that are not necessarily we are doing them because they are right. We are doing them because we are traumatized. We are doing them because if I don't do this, then I will be in a lot of trouble. But are we doing it for ourselves? Are we doing it to get the community to a better space? Are we doing it to get ourselves better with time? Or are we just, it's what society has told me to do, so let me do it. Right? So according to you, what is mental health without necessarily giving us the dictionary meaning or what a therapist said or what you Googled, because you're so good. Like Betty, I give you assignments. Like, I think you've described 145 better than I would have. Like, you just went and did your research and you figured out, okay, anyway. But I'm glad. I'm happy. I am proud to be your teacher. Well, let me tell you. Yeah, according to you, how would you define now mental health from everything that we have discussed, from everything that, from a perspective of now a musician, from a perspective of being a writer, you've been in film. So how would you bring all that together and describe mental health?
So for me, mental health, or rather good mental health, is the ability to stay sane when life decides that it wants to do the thing. You know, life inaweza fanya ile kitu.
Yeah, you thought you were fine.
Life says LOL 1 sec. And suddenly you don't even know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, why. Something like losing a loved one. Obviously, you're not going to be up and about the next day like nothing happened.
And sometimes you're expected to be up. Oof.
Yes.
Sorry. I remember Lydia Ndwiga. There's a time I lost it wasn't a relative even, it was someone who was very close to the family, but we used to call him uncle. So we had a gig the following day, and I tell my boss that time that I am going for the burial the following day. I was told, let the dead bury themselves. Even Jesus said so. I was like, okay. So at that time, I was still very green in the industry, and I thought this is how it's supposed to be because that's what I was introduced to in the industry. And I remember I went for the burial, and after the burial, you just want to wusa and hang out with the family and hear what your dad feels about it because they were very tight and just feel just wusaing. But no, after the burial, I was rushing someone to bring me back to Nairobi so that I don't miss the gig. But then the gig was not paying me $1 million bob. It was literally peanuts. I think about it those days. But here we are. Whoever talked about that, like whoever addressed, like if I go back, did that, like every time I think of a burial, honestly, and I have work to do, that's the thing that is etched in my mind. Let the dead bury themselves. And not because I'm going to let that sink in and not go for the burial, but that's the first thing that always comes to my head. I have work to do. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, but you see, this is what we are talking about.
Yeah.
So, mental health means, yes, you go through that, whatever it is, because that is what life is. It's not ever going to be smooth or, the way we want.
Yeah.
But especially as creatives, how do you not lose yourself? How do you keep creating? How do you translate that into something positive? Because a lot of times, now this is like just as humans, when life does the thing, we need a way to cope, and usually it's not healthy.
But we have the creative part of ourselves. Why wouldn't that be enough? Because that's what everyone knows. If I'm sad, I go listen to music. If I want to appreciate something, I go look at a nice painting and just... Why isn't that enough for us? And we're the ones who are creating it. I mean, the creator should be the one who's benefiting first, no?
But isn't that saying that a doctor should treat themselves? Because what happens when a doctor gets sick and they need surgery? Are they going to operate themselves? No.
But you see, the doctor doesn't have a product. Creatives have a product that is being used by other people to heal their mental state. So why can't I, who's been asked, uko na YouTube channel every time? Meaning, uko na YouTube 80 videos. And literally 3/4 of them is just you talking about your life. But hey, you have a YouTube channel. Why wouldn't I go and listen to my music and bring healing? Because a lot of times I have been told, hey, that song you released, oh, it really helped me and stuff. I was like, oh, that feels so good. But why wouldn't I listen to that same song and get the healing that someone else got?
It's a very good question that I cannot answer. Yes.
So maybe the subsequent guests will be able to tell us.
Yes, because maybe we all have different ways of managing our mental health, especially if your income is not steady enough and someone tells you get therapy, you start doing the calculations and it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
So maybe we have figured out interesting ways to navigate. So yes, I can create whatever artwork that heals other people, but to me that is not my medicine. My medicine is something else. Yes. So that's, now it comes down to everybody's different, but I still think there is some common ground, so hopefully we'll be able to explore that as we go along.
Okay, that's a question I've never really asked. So if you were to define what a mentally sane whole person looks like, I know I'm still throwing you under the bus.
Yes.
What would, like, if you were to look at yourself as Kawira Koome, if I am going to achieve the mental sanity of myself, like where I can say, I know we'll hatutawaifika place where we are going to say nimefika, you know, what is Kawira Koome whole as mentally sane? What are the things you will do different? How will you talk different? How will you dress different, if ever comes that? But what would you define Kawira Koome as a mentally sane person?
Wow.
I know.
I would say I would need something that I need to know what is unshakable about me. Like, come what may, life throws me wherever or throws whatever at me, I am still Kawira Koome. So finding that one, you have to be forged by fire. So everything is shed, like all your ideas about the way you look, your sense of worth, how much money
you sit up.
Yes, how much money you make, how your hair looks, how all of those, they have to be removed so that you know who you are, and then that will define how you handle everything else, how you interact with people, who you even choose to interact with, where you live. And then all of that now informs your art, because say even in my writing, I know there are topics I will not go into, like politics. No. But I know the people who have hot takes about politics are the ones who get published by all these major publications. But it's like, no, if it doesn't align with that core, I won't do it. And also, it's something that I don't have to explain myself, because I know it so well. So the ones who will get it, they'll get it. The ones who will not, they will not. And it's not their fault. But then also, there's also a part of me that I do want people to read my stuff. I do want to resonate. So do I now start prioritizing the audience, or do I speak now from my core? And then that leads into a whole lot of... These are the things that keep me up at night. So me, sane would be being secure. Completely secure. That wherever I show up, this is me. This is it. Take it or leave it. If you take it, fantastic. If you leave it, that's okay too.
That's still okay.
Fine. Yeah. But getting to that, oh God, it has been... I don't think it will ever stop. That journey will never stop, because it changes with everything that life brings at me.
Yeah. So
the things I read, the people I meet, the places I go, they will all influence that. So when the time comes when it really doesn't matter and I am happy to be who I am, and now that also opens up, like, other than being a writer, what else can I be? Am I also a painter? Am I also a singer? Am I also... Who knows? And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because also there's always a challenge of just pick your lane. But what if I don't want a lane? What if I want the entire highway? What if I want to drive backwards?
And is it okay?
If it's okay with me, and I'm not hurting anyone and I'm not hurting myself, then I think I will have achieved that level of, like, good mental health. I am far from it. but baby steps.
Baby steps.
Because, like, for example, even coming on this podcast, this is something I have never even dreamed of doing. But here I am, because why not? I am learning. I am pushing myself. So.
And opening yourself to different avenues and not allowing it to affect who you are and not allowing it to affect basically what you want. And also talking about boundaries.
And also discovering, I can do that too.
Yeah.
So that also now adds to that core that I'm looking for. Like, if I can have this conversation in front of cameras, then that other thing that I was afraid of doing isn't so bad. Yeah. So now I become a bit more confident in trying other things. And then I think that also will still feed back into whatever I create. Because who knows, I might write about this experience, but as a piece of fiction.
Yeah.
Because I am, again, the thing with the picking lanes. As a writer, there are things I will not. I don't know how to write about things I have not experienced. But also that doesn't mean I write things one for one. Like, I woke up, I went to the studio, I talked with Lydia, I panicked, and then no, it might come out as science fiction. Who knows? And now also allowing myself to do that and be okay with it, whether it gets published or not, it is done and I am at peace with it. So by extension, if as creatives we would find our core, like regardless of what you paint, regardless of what song you write, regardless of what building you design, regardless of whatever, if you know who you are, the critics can say what they want.
Yeah.
You're still who you are.
Yes. And you're okay with being who you are.
Yeah.
So there's a time we were having what they call the master classes, and there was this very popular singer. I won't say from where, because people will probably tulikuwa nawe kwa your master class. So I asked, because I'm one person who of course, when you get into the industry, the first thing you're told is get your target audience, and as a musician, that's very important for you. And so there's some kind of music that you know very well that your target audience is not able to listen to. And so I asked the question, so what happens to the music? Because now he was saying that you have to write music that is accommodative to your target audience and things that they're going to like. And I asked him, so what happens to the music that is not going to appease my target audience? And he said, sing it in the bathroom. That was many, 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 many years ago, but I have never forgotten what he said. And so from there, you ask yourself, will I constantly make creative stuff for other people and not... where do I come in? And I know it kind of sounds like a selfish thing, and especially knowing that God gave us gifts so that we're able to edify each other. But I always believe that there's no way you will put water in a container, and even though you empty it, it'll not always be purely dry. There's something that is going to be left. And I believe that even as God has given us the gifts that we need to work with as creatives, it needs to impact us at one point or another. And so in that space, I know we need to involve people in our gifts. I know we need to speak to the community and help community. Like now, as we're doing with the podcast, we have to consider community. But at what point do we draw the boundary and tell ourselves, I want to do what I want to do. I want to do what makes me excited about what life looks like, and perhaps from that someone else is able to be happy. Or should I get into the industry and tell myself, I need to consider and find a balance, and how does that affect my mental state of mind? So for you, you've said you want to take a certain way of writing, but the question would be, what if your community is not okay with that, and that's not what they want you? Would you change, or will that affect your mental balance, and will you be okay with that, or do you try and fix it, if that makes sense? Like I usually say, the boundaries we need to set are not to put people away, like build high walls, but the boundaries would be the way they usually say, you cannot choose what happens to you, but you can choose how it affects you. How do you work with that in your own category and with the people who are actually now coming to you to seek, because they like your writing, but I don't like science fiction?
For that, I would say, first of all, just pick your battles. You're not going to please everyone.
you're not everyone's cup of coffee.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's fine, because also I'm not that special. Like, I am not the be all and end all of writing. If anything, I'm just starting out. Because there are people I look up to. So in that sense, that is something I can't control. Like, I will write, and whether you relate to it or not, I did my part.
You did your part.
I did my part. I cannot. So you bought the book. I'm not going to come to your house and make sure you've read. That is on you.
Umesoma kitabu changu?
Umefika chapter?
Uko page?
Yes. That is beyond me.
Soma haraka. Nataka kutoa ingine.
Yes. So for that, I have to be okay with, I have gone through the process, and I have written the story, edited, done the whole thing. That's the best I can do. But at the same time, it is also being okay with not having all the control. Because that's also quite difficult, especially if this is your bread and butter. You know, if you don't deliver this, whatever it may be, because even in the creative world, we have our own metrics.
We do.
And those metrics often translate into income. And if this is your bread and butter, and you have not hit that, then what will you eat? Where will you live? Complicated. So in that case, then I would have to look for alternatives. So yes, this is what I love to do, but reality is I am not going to be homeless. I don't want to be.
You don't want to be?
No, I don't want to starve. So what can I do that still aligns with who I am, but can at least feed me? So that also becomes a whole other thing, because it goes back to what other skills do you have, what other avenues can you try, which means now we even put more pressure on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
So
I was about to just start talking about the pressures that creatives have.
Yes. And even this financial aspect as well, that is very, very, it's a huge cause of stress. Because say you go for financial advice somewhere and they're telling you about, every month set aside, every month from where, how? Because say a lot of the time it's a lot of preparation. It's planning. Then when the gig comes, it comes once with a lump sum, and then now
all your bills are paid there.
Yes. So then you can't even relate to the advice that's out there.
Yeah.
So it just, I don't even know if I'm answering your question.
No, you are.
But all of these things, and then from the perspective of the creative industry, they just pile extra complications on us. And then say you get to a point where you do have fans and they have expectations, and so I think we have to get to a point where we also need to be honest with whoever follows us, because yes, they will use our art, whatever it may be,
for their own
as
healing,
an escape.
Yeah.
But they also need to recognize that we are people too. We are people too. That vulnerability in public. That's also another whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
So all of those things we need to balance somehow. And as creatives also, if we say go get therapy, do we know any practitioners who will get how we have lived, and who will give us advice that is tailored to us? Because you'll get the generic advice of, sleep 8 hours a day.
Maybe try make your finance. Look for finance here.
Do yoga. Do no.
Meditate. Be quiet.
You ask me to meditate, my brain will not shut up. So that does not work. Also, another factor, I don't know if this is even relevant, but a lot of us, we tend to be neurodivergent, which means we are somewhere on a spectrum, from like autism to dyslexia to whatever, all those. And those also bring other anxieties.
145, 151, 451.
Because now they are tied to our creativity. Because if, for example, you're dyslexic, you have to be creative to navigate the education system. Because everybody else can read and write. You're supposed to keep up. So how do you remember these, like the text in your textbook, and put that on the exam paper and pass?
And pass like everyone else.
Say you're autistic. Oh God, that's a whole other. Because you don't see the world like anybody else does. Say if you have this thing that Akina Farrell have, what's it called? Synesthesia. And you can taste colors. So when you make your music, it's so good, but we don't know how you do it. It's because your brain is wired differently. So there's also a lot of, we have not built our world to accommodate people who think differently.
It's so true.
But it's then really you find a majority of us think differently. That's why we create. So,
and that's why the creativity is unique.
Yes. So we need even advice that is tailored to us, so that we can just make our lives a bit easier, man. Just a bit easier, so that we can keep creating. We don't want to stop. We don't want to hit walls. We don't want writer's block. We don't want to be disappearing for months and then no. If we are able to maintain our mental health, we can maintain our careers as creatives. Well. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. And this is what we're trying to kind of, is the word decipher, or try to just crack a code with the 145 booth. And we're trying to just be able to tell creatives it's really okay. It's totally okay to have a different way of thinking. It's totally okay if you just go do music that is 145. And if it's music that you like, that's fine. If you want to put the complexities of the other kind of chords and other things that are happening in the music, it's still okay. But we still have, everyone has a space for whatever needs to be done. With the pressure, without the pressure. Because for me, I'll tell you for sure, what I really struggled with when I was just getting into the industry is the pressure. First thing someone will tell you, you have to dress in a certain way, you have to look a certain way, you have to present yourself in a certain way, you have to even look like you don't know much. You know, there are those who will tell you, a certain percentage of people will listen to very simple music. So you have to also put yourself simple if you want to become a big person. And then you ask yourself, do I really want to be a celebrity who everyone walks in and is kacha with me? The first thing, they're taking photos. Is that the kind of a person I want? And then this is the kind of life you've been exposed to. The big stages and working with big artists. And you, of course, look at the life and they're like, I want that light and camera kind of action. But at some point, you're like, I can't handle it. Like even when you find just two people on your face with a camera, you're thinking, can this end right now? So you actually end up asking yourself, will I really make it on that stage? Will I really be the person who needs to be seen as what everyone else wants to see me as? And is it okay that I can be different? Yeah. So, and I think that's what a safe space should look like. You know, this is number 6. No, this is number 9. Both of us are right because we're looking at it in a different perspective, and that's totally okay. 145 booth is about that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe I could ask, what, according to you, because I love hearing what everyone else has, and I think that's what our team is about, just being able to tell you what are the goals in my different way. I know Sanna will have his own way of describing what the goals for the podcast is, and he said something to do with community. He said something to do with the safe space as well. Yes. He said creating a place where creatives can be able to come and communicate and talk the truth about what's going on in life, and not just hide behind the saxophone. I play so well and it sounds so good. Sanna, you sound so good on the saxophone. But I don't need to hide behind that. I can actually be able to tell Kawira, yesterday I did a gig and it went super badly and I hated how it went. And I'm able to be vulnerable in as much as he's a dude. Or he's able to get a couple of other people who wafungi, we did a good job yesterday, but I felt like I'm not comfortable. But you know, sometimes you can't even go say, "Ai, apana hiyo saxophone ili sound vibaya," because everyone is wondering, you're on your own. sisi tuligive everything we could have.
Yeah.
So you stay with your problems, like they can be able to give you a safe space and accommodate you even when you know enyewe. Or maybe it's not even about the music, maybe what you're going through with your family. There's so much happening out there.
Oh yeah.
There's so much happening. So you're able to have that community where you can actually just hold hands and tell each other we are going to be fine even through this concert, even through this gig and everything that we're doing. Like, you need to create that community. And I hope the 145 booth is able to provide that for every creative. But according to you, what are the goals of the podcast?
Wow. You ask really good questions.
Answer Zibas. Don't worry.
The goal for me would be to just open things up and encourage whoever is listening, especially if you are contemplating following your art, because this call can...
Oh, it's like, let me just describe
loud.
It's like a fire.
Yes.
Like a fire, and then when you don't have the resources, you don't know how to put it out.
Yes.
So the only way you can put it out is by putting out your stuff. And you don't have the resources. So you feel like it's something that is burning
Yes.
the whole time. And then you just want to detach yourself from it, but you can't.
Yes.
Because it's a gift.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, especially if you are considering following that calling, it would be very important to know that the people you look up to, they don't have it all figured out.
No,
If you can listen...
I've been told that a lot. I think you have it all figured out.
So, for example, you have been sitting on a pile of poems that you have been writing, but you are afraid because you're sharing a part of you. You don't know how people are going to receive it. You don't even know how to publish it. You have basically frozen. And then you hear someone on this podcast sharing their journey about how they overcame that fear and how they kept creating and how they stand out and how it surprised them and the challenges that they faced and how they overcame. Then if you take away that, they did it, so I can, and you can do it your way and it's fine, and at the end of the day you'll be better off for it compared to not doing anything at all, then objective achieved. Now, compound that with anybody who's considering music or considering, I don't know, doing graffiti, or because we are going to open this up to as many creatives as possible. People who have quote unquote settled because of needs. You have a family you have to provide, but the fire is still there. So if you can listen to this and feel okay, you can breathe a bit and be okay, it's fine, it's okay to feel this way, and these are maybe the challenges you can expect to find, and you will have your own challenges, but you can figure things out and still be sane.
Yeah, sanity. I like how you normally tell me in class, Lydia, anything that takes away my sanity, I don't want it. I don't want it.
And there's someone who,
and every time I'm asking, there's a cousin of mine I usually ask, who was just telling me how if it doesn't make me feel like my mind is in the right place, I don't want it. Like, even though it's the best job I've ever been given, for as long as it takes away my sanity, then I don't want it. Then maybe to just ask from that, who is a creative without the gift? Can the 145 booth answer that? Because I feel like we have... who is Lydia? Lydia is a voice coach. Lydia is a singer, songwriter, and a performer. Lydia is what she does. But away from that, who am I? What are my strengths and my weaknesses? Can I actually wake up in the morning and ask Kawira, who is Lydia? And you'll tell me, she loves sunsets. She loves walking in nature, and she loves doing A, B, C, and D. like literally away from my accolade. Like if I was, the way a celebrity is just known because they sing, because they write, because they give something, like they have a product. A doctor is known because they treat and because they have a big name and because they earn a lot of money. That's what we know. So are we able, as the 145 booth, to address who the creative is, stripped away from their creativeness?
Oh, hopefully, because that's a very big question. Because God forbid you are a singer, and then one day, again, God forbid, you can't sing for whatever.
Oh, that has been a fear that I have.
Yes.
I won't even lie.
So who are you when you're not that? If God, like the example of Terry Pratchett, who is one of my favorite authors of all time, the man could write faster than I could read. I still haven't finished his books, but during his final days, he lost the ability to write. Like, it was so heartbreaking. Like, he would look at the keyboard and not know where the letters are. And your entire life
has been about writing.
You are a writer. Who are you without that? Maybe you are taking it for granted that we are creatives, especially when it makes financial sense.
Exactly.
And especially when you have a big following. But if for some reason that is taken away, what is left? I think that is a very personal thing for every person to figure out. But this podcast might be a beginning.
Yeah.
It might give you a bit of spark to even allow yourself to think that way. And now to appreciate what you do even more. Because it is a gift. I don't think any of us filled out a form like, these are the talents.
Would have been nice.
Pick one.
Would have been nice.
So we are gifted, and they are gifts because we did not sign up for them. We found ourselves with them, and now we have the responsibility to use them and use them well. So maybe also to become more humble about it, because it could happen either way. Like, I'll take myself for an example. Say I never ever get published. I'll sit on my manuscripts, and I know they are good. They're amazing.
And you have been told they're good.
Like, I am the voice.
Yeah.
You know? But what if it doesn't work out? Who am I without that? Just, again, coming back to my core, what is that? That whether I'm a writer or not, regardless of where I find myself, I am still okay. And I can still make ends meet. I can still be a good friend. I can be a good cat mom. I can deliver when I'm called upon.
Yeah.
I am that. And then also a writer.
Okay.
Yes.
So maybe one last question. What's the identity of a creative? Is it in what we do, or in basically who we are away from what we do to give to the masses?
I don't think you can separate the two.
Yeah?
You just have to find a way to make them coexist and make sense to you. Because what works for Lydia will not work for me, will not work for Sanna, will not work for... And that's okay too. And that's the problem, especially with creative things, is that we have so many people who have gone before us and they have done amazing things, and we want that. But what if that is not what you're supposed to be doing? That is a question only you can answer for yourself.
And that gets scary.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah, because I think from a young age, we are used to having decisions made for us. We are used to having people help us make decisions. And we are used to just not being independent per se. So you get into an industry where you actually have to be independent thinking. But at the same time, there's influence of the people who've been there ahead before you, people who are still there, people who are making it with one-hit wonders, and you have a whole album. Yeah, and like, I'm not even making money with this, but someone just came and did 145, and they are good. Like, it has taken care of the rest of their lives. So these are awesome conversations. Like, I think for me, it's a wonderful space to be honest. I love vulnerable conversations. Like, I love just having and just understanding how the mind works, because I think it's one of the very complex parts of our bodies that God gave us. And everything just happens in there. Like a lot of how you think about yourself determines how you walk into a room, determines how you're able to even present your craft, determines how you're able to write. Like if you're in a very bad space and you have such a happy reel to share on Instagram, you will find yourself writing a very sad character development kind of a caption, and you're wondering, but this was supposed to be, I was in nature and having fun. Why am I writing sad things on a very happy, So it I just love knowing the neurons behind it, sijui which one went where and sent. Like every time someone asks me, like as a voice coach, you're asked, so yes, I have the vibration of the vocal cords when you're talking about the process of a sound production. Yes, they vibrate, but how does it release the do, re, mi? And I'm like, I don't know either. But now you start thinking, oh, it's the brain that sends G signals that have to do what and what. So it's very interesting how the mind works. And unfortunately, this powerful thing that we have can either give us a strength to our strength or a weakness to our weaknesses, or it can make a strength to our weaknesses and vice versa. So it's up to us to just realize that at the end of the day, even as a creative, I'm not saying that we are more special than everyone else who's in the office.
No, not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. But there's I don't know. There's something that there's a, how do I say it? That customer you put like there's a spark. There's a different, there's a spark that we have that might be a little bit different from everyone else. And they usually say, hey, mtu wa kati ya creative na say accountant mwenye wa kwanza wa kuchizi ni nani? Ni creative. Because us guys, we are constantly thinking. We are constantly trying to create. I'm not saying that an accountant doesn't think. They do. But I feel like we are constantly thinking of a product. Yeah, the accountant already has a product and they are giving it. As guys, we are thinking, we need to create the product continuously. I need to write. I need to have an album. I need to have a book. I need to have a I need a But there are the other people. I don't mean to make them feel less, but I feel like the advantage is that they already have a product. So they're working with the product to create something even more magnificent. On the other hand, nisipoandika wimbo, there's nothing new I have. You're listening to the same song over and over again, and then the pressures that are existing, So nyimbo ingine inatoka lini? Umekaa, hakuna song umetoa? And then I go back home and I'm thinking, wow, I have been voice coaching because I need to pay my bills. Yes. And then again, you start telling yourself, no, I am voice coaching because I want to hear people having better voices. I want to impact the community in a certain way. But when you get out to the same community, it's like, Aki, please nitumie ka 500. So ulikuwa unacheza Serena jana usiku, sinilikuona. Nitumie tu ka 500. That time you're thinking, yes, I was playing at Serena, but I came out with 2K. I can't even buy a meal at Serena. So you go back home and you're wondering, why am I in this? And so many times, even as a musician, I have asked myself, sasa, siningefanya ile IT madhi alikuwa niambia nifanye. So at the end of the day, you're like, okay, am I in the wrong profession in the first place? And so all these things, you just don't know how, pole, they just keep impacting what you're going through. And I hope that the 145 booth is able to demystify some of these things that we're talking about. It's able to get you to a place where you're able to become a better creative and a sane person who's able to, and sane does not necessarily mean that you had gone cuckoo. Yeah, sane sometimes is just you not being in your best space to be a creative or even to be a person as themselves, You're not able to just be okay with who you are. And I hope that we are going to continue having these wonderful conversations at the 145 booth. Kawira Koome.
Yes.
Asante. Asante Sanna for coming through. Asante for coming for our first podcast.
Thank you for the very difficult questions. I will never forget.
But the good thing is, we hope that now everyone understands what the 145 booth is about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we are going to have different guests who are going to come for the show. We're going to have different people who are going to talk about their mental health. We have different creatives, musicians, filmmakers, writers. We're going to bring a psychologist and many others who are going to tell us what they feel or what they have encountered mental health to be, and the people who've actually dealt with creatives as well, and different other aspects of mental health as well. It doesn't have to be mental health for creatives alone. We are going to have as many discussions as we can, and just build a community around this. So don't think of the 145. I don't know why I keep is that what the number thing? Yeah. So I hope that the 145 booth is able to give you a safe community, a community where you can actually just express yourself, talk about the issues that you're going through, just open up conversations that you can also create your own community wherever it is that you are. And it's not just a podcast where we talk about things, and where we're just looking to be a part of the podcast that exists, but we're hoping to create a community where we can just discuss things that are in our lives, not just the music part, not just the filming part, not just the writing part, but as well we can talk about, hey Jana, nilienda home, sikuwa na food, can we come through? Jana, I was given an emergency call and my dad is not feeling okay. Can you help? And not in monetary terms, but can we talk about it and feel better about it? Nikipanda your stage, I'm not just going to let off the steam. I'm going to serve a community without having so many things at the back of my head. And even when I get off the stage, I have a community down there waiting for me to tell me, your dad is going to be okay. And even though they don't know if it's going to be okay, the fact that I have a community working with me, I think that just works. Because a lot of creatives will come and tell you, everyone is around me because of what I can do. Everyone is around me because I have a following. Everyone is around me because I am an influencer na niko na tudo. So whenever they need a lunch, niko. But everyone, I can say that in as much as everyone is that, there's a tribe that I have that is actually there because of who I am, not because of what I do. And I hope the 145 booth can be that for you. Kindly follow us on all our social media platforms at the 145 booth. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, the 145 booth. Remember to like and share and comment and engage with us with the discussions that we are having.